What up, guys and girls? It is Bobby,
And Sean.
and we are back. We gotta stop doing
Uh,
this. We gotta stop doing this,
we
Joe.
gotta stop doing. But it's like we're busy. I know people want to get our hot takes on. I mean, for instance, we've missed pulling out of Afghanistan. We're now only up to soft influencers and Green Berets taking the Navy
Yes,
SEAL throne for
yes.
influencing. And I feel like there's another big story that we've missed. We're really topical, if you can't tell. We've prepared so much for you, our avid listeners, but we've not forgotten that we're currently sponsoring this broadcast through the benefactors known as 10,000, great fitness apparel company. And this month, 10% of the proceeds from their tactical athlete short line are going to Cronus Fit. And so we are really grateful for this continued partnership. It's going to help with the scholarship program. So if you are transitioning, apply. There's no barrier to entry here. It's literally a very short application. Get them in. We've got about a month and a half before application window closes.
Yeah, I will say that the tackle short is actually probably my favorite short from them from 10,000. It's super lightweight, very flexible. It's like of all the shorts that I've tried from theirs is my favorite for working out in. Highly recommend grabbing a pair of those shorts because they're really good shorts.
Yeah,
They
I'd
come in
absolutely
like
agree.
solid black. So, if you're, for PTs, you could probably get away with them wearing for PTs because they're solid black. But yeah, great shorts.
Yeah, I have the clay colored ones, and I think they're really good for making my eyes pop, uh, which is I think the most important part of working out because you need a that way you don't have to put on one of those like Rio filters to make your gaze look ever more present and alive in your whatever squat mid kettlebell swing movement that you're doing.
You just gotta look good. I mean, that's what it comes down to for anything. You gotta look cool doing it.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that's the reason I joined the army and I joined at a branch like the infantry. I just knew that over time I would have access to the best opportunities for cool guy photos. I'd be around people that knew how to pose for cool guy photos. Because let's be honest, if you're in a branch where you only get to touch a 50 cal once every 2 years, you're not going to be with the experienced veterans who know how to angle their photos having touched this device 50, 60 times. You don't know what angle you really need to really capture is this in combat or is this at Fort Irwin? I don't know. Your followers won't, but you're starting to get 5,000 likes. So that's the whole point.
I guess that'll lead us into our first topic of the day, which I imagine will be the fake soft influencers on the gram now, which I'm sure you're referencing that one Green Beret dude. I won't even say his name because I don't want to give him any credit.
No, and I don't even know why we refer to him as that one Green Beret dude, just that one regular dude who
True.
I don't know what's worse, creating a fake persona online, which I think we've seen, and we talked about exposing it a couple weeks ago. Creating a fake persona or being part of the collective that bought into it, that completely ate up everything this person said, maybe from a conventional side of the house. You look at soft and you're very impressed by these individuals, but it's just one of those. I've never put anyone up on that kind of a pedestal, and I surely wouldn't put someone that I feel like I could have gone and done the exact same thing that they've accomplished. It's not like, I'm idolizing some F1 driver. It's a regular person that passed selection in Q course. You yourself can do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think it's we talk about like the stolen valor thing, but it's just like I think, especially in social media, it just highlights the kind of the shortcomings or kind of the fallacies of social media, and that you don't exactly know what you are buying into or subscribing to or liking or developing a relationship with. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, everything on social media is pretty much a fake image that somebody else is trying to project. The one dude that I'm referencing was like, I think he was like a National Guard dude, and then like created this social media identity that he was like an ex Green Beret, was talking about like selection, like give advice about selection, when he, in fact, had never gone to selection or was even an active duty service member. And if they went to go to his Instagram, it's all like these pictures and like cool guy like Kit, like, and that, it's essentially LARPing. That's all he's doing is
It is.
LARPing.
It is.
And
It's LARPing with people that have had access to it, though. It's a more refined LARPing. You have to know what you need. You can't just go out and make a foam sword. Like, you're spending thousands of dollars to
oh
LARP.
yeah, like yeah, $1,000 to go LARP. Which I don't like bring up like other soft Instagram companies, but there's other companies out there that are kind of known for releasing like the cool guy pictures with like the blurred out faces and stuff, which in my mind it's just literally just glorified LARPing. And then the videos of like them clearing like rooms and stuff, and like, but it's an empty room in an
Oh yeah.
abandoned warehouse, and it's like, that might look kind of cool because you like put some like filters on it and throw some cool guy like music on it, but like in the end of the day, it's literally grown men running around in a warehouse pretending to clear a warehouse with people videotaping it, literally LARPing.
It comes down to, what is your presence about? Bobby and I have we've put photos on our Cronus Fit showing maybe training that we've conducted, training with some of the other rangers, or some men from my first unit, which was not soft, but never to the degree where we're taking these photos and trying to project that we're the end all be all. It's more of a, hey, this is the cool photo that we have for today. Most of our, not I say most, 99% of our photos are on was it DVids? Is that,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're all
all
open source.
they're all open source. You just go grab them. You can literally search. Our our methodology to our influencer life on Cronus Fit is comprised of getting photos showing fit individuals doing cool stuff, but then the bulk of what our post is about is either the functional fitness or the military prep workout for that day. And there's no hiding the magic 8 ball. It's not clickbait. Fortunately, I don't think we have too many bots that follow the site, but most of it's just getting out there. I just don't like the Instagram monetization that I think a lot of these people are trying to buy into, where people have reached out to us to talk about knives, to talk about holsters, to sell shirts with a lion's head on it. I can't. I'm losing track of some of the other offers, but it's like, that's not what we're.
Supplements. Yeah.
Yeah, not that's not us. And if you follow us, you know that it's not us. So it's almost aggravating to get these kind of sponsored clickbait ads of, will you review this knife? It's a tactical knife. No, dude, I won't. I've only used a knife to open an MRE. So whatever cool guy thing you're gonna think I'm gonna do with this is gonna be, it's gonna thoroughly let you down.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think like, our social media isn't really in the classic sense of a social media. Like, we don't put like our social media is literally just a venue that we put the workout out for the day. And if we could just put it like blank picture, black picture, I'm sure we wouldn't get as many likes or follows, but that's literally the intent, is just to put the workout out for the day.
I mean, there's a huge difference though. We've posted, and I've tried it a couple times, where we just put our logo up on a photo, and we get like a fourth of the likes. We get the same amount of views, but a fourth of the likes. And it's one of those, okay, I guess nobody likes our logo, but it's, I don't know, it's weird. If for those of you that follow the page and have like tried to follow me or Bobby individually, I'm sorry if like I don't know you. We don't have a relationship. On my personal Instagram, that thing is private, and like, I love the Cronus Fit family, but I mean, that's my private point. And I think people that bleed this private public image are the ones that are typically getting involved with either inflating their experiences, or straight up just stolen valoring Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, I have my personal Instagram is private. But if some people will try and follow me, and then generally speaking, my rule of thumb is that if we have mutual acquaintances, I will kind of let it slide by. But if it's
Yes,
I don't know, some like random international person with like a like
zero posts,
Arabic,
and
yeah,
yeah.
with Arabic in the name, probably not gonna let you follow me. I'm sorry, dude.
Well, there's some that I've looked at just for fun, and it's following 6,000 people followed by 3 and 0 posts.
Yeah.
Like that screams red flag. And of course I'm going to accept because I want to see where this goes. But the the influencer game has never been something that I've been interested in. I know it's not something that you've been interested in, but I think it's the product of today's environment where individuals want personal credit for things that are probably more either team based or just simply, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of information out there already. You don't need to fill that void.
Although I will say that some of the guys that have followed, or some of the people that follow me from Cronus Fit, have actually like reached out to like my personal DM saying that, that you or I were like a huge inspiration for them, and push them or help them to motivate them to get to their goals, which I think is super cool. So I do think that there is a venue for that, in that um, getting feedback back from guys that we have somehow helped along the way, whether it's giving them some workout plans, or just been there, like showing them what like right could potentially look like.
Yeah, absolutely. I there's definitely people that I've followed back or that follow my personal one that I know are part of the Cronus Fit community because typically we've established some sort of a communication with Cronus Fit prior to, and so there's that relationship that we've developed. And by no means this is not us saying we don't appreciate the Cronus Fit followers. It's just one of those things where there's a private component to what we do versus the public facing image of a small nonprofit, which is Cronus Fit.
But yeah, I think social media is rife with these fake idols, and people that are trying to sell you a product or sell you an image or create an identity for themselves. And that I think it's you know it would behoove people to not place as much an emphasis on social media as most people probably do. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Like, I scroll through my Instagram probably for like 30 minutes, an hour a day. I really try not to do too much. I can use it as like when I'm pooping. Like look at my scrolling through my phone while I'm pooping or something like that. But the mindless scrolling probably isn't good for you either.
No, I try to do, maybe I'll check Cronus Fit twice a day to see if we've got any messages, if people are reaching out to ask about programming. We get a lot about Ranger School throughout the year, so I'm happy to answer those. And then my personal one, I'm checking twice a day too. It's just that double tap on the icon. But I'm more guilty of scrolling on a YouTube. I have maybe 10 or 12 subscriptions that I follow on YouTube, and especially when like I'm in the bathroom, I'm watching at least one video to two videos of a 6 to 15 minute clip of something, whether it's F1 triathlon
Mm.
related. I I'm following something on a chef that cooks on a small yacht, and the daily goings on of cooking for 30 plus people in like a 150 square foot cabin space. So that's what my hobbies are currently.
Yeah, look at my phone as far as my screen time, and it looks like I average about 2 to 2.5 hours a week or a day on screen time over a week, of which, approximately an hour is on Instagram a day.
Wait, I can see those. Let me see my stats. This is gonna be
Oh
so.
man, that's embarrassing.
Where's your
But
screen time?
if you like
Oh, I
scroll
see.
all the way to the left, sorry for the listeners, it's probably gonna be really stupid for the next couple minutes.
Let's say day. Well, that's day. I want to see what like the week average is.
We're gonna listen to Shaw and be a boomer now, trying to figure out his phone.
Hey, do you double click the circle at the bottom? I don't know. I think it says that I'm at like 2 hours and 35 minutes of that is Instagram, but then 35 minutes is YouTube. And then, of course, Giphies, because I'm always searching for GIFs because I'm an adult man and I can't answer in regular words. I have to use moving images.
Yeah, but it's kind of, I remember like that. I can't. I wonder what the average screen time is for American.
Oh, I bet it's somewhere north of 5 to 6 hours.
So let's see. Googling it, it shows average adult spends about 3.5 hours a day on their phone.
That makes sense,
Three to
especially if
four
you're in an
hours a
office
day.
environment.
Yeah. Well, if you, I think it's just like looking on your phone. So, I have tried in the past to like kind of limit my screen time down to like 2 hours or less per day. But generally speaking, in the hospital too, like some of that is actually like productive, like work. Like I'm actually like looking things up, not like fucking around like on social media. But that's like a thing to be another point of emphasis that you can make in your own personal life is like reducing the screen time because ultimately, you're not doing anything productive by sitting on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah, and people often ask us what our fitness regime is on a daily basis, what we're eating on a daily basis. I think the most important one is what does our screen time look like? And so I'm happy to answer this. I'm waking up around 4:45. I will check my emails. I have too many email accounts. I found out. I think I have 6 email accounts. I don't know why, but I do. And I'll make sure I don't have anything pertinent. I've got my third year of school coming up, so helping out with orientation and serving as an advisor. Hashtag someone's about to be blessed with my advising. And then I think that's when I check Cronus for the first time. If I'm not posting that day, I'm going and liking the post from my private account. Um, and then, yeah, I'm spending that time in the morning, which I have about 45 minutes of with my girlfriend before I go and do some sort of a cardio workout or go to the gym. And then I'm back, I'm going to work, and I'll check it throughout work, maybe a couple hours here, off and there, texting with her. When I get back though, I'm done with my phone. I try to limit my phone's influence on my personal relationship. It's who else do I need to talk to? If my parents need to get a hold of me, my sister, if Bobby, I've got the thing on loud. I'll put it on a charger, and I won't touch it, because otherwise, what's the point of being with somebody if you're going to be distracted looking on your phone? I mean, how many dates have you gone on and seen couples literally sitting across from each other, just scrolling on their phone as if the other person's not even there?
Yeah, that's one thing that Christina and I have made more of an active effort to improve on is like limiting the phone time when we're with each other. At dinner time, we have a no phone rule at dinner time, and something that we started doing recently within the last like 6 months is that for dinner time, we sit down at the table and like face across from each other at the table, and then put the phones away. Don't have TV playing in the background, and so it's just the two of us talking about our day. I think that's done like a great thing for our relationship. But it's something that I feel like maybe in like modern day society, it's harder and harder to sit down and have like a distraction free conversation slash meal with one another. So it's something that we've done that has made it, I think, a big difference in our relationship.
I think that's awesome. I really enjoy my time at night when it's just the two of us hanging out. I've also tried to, and it's difficult because I don't know if you can tell on the screen, we just got a new 75-inch flat screen, because
Ooh.
that's necessary for an 800 square foot apartment. It looked much smaller in Costco when it was on sale, but we moved the other TV into our bedroom, which I've always been opposed to having a TV in the bedroom,
Hmm.
just because I think it can get in the way of intimacy, and I don't ever want to be the person that like falls asleep with the TV on, because
No.
like that's not the point of having a bedroom. But I sometimes try to make the effort of, if we're going to bed at 9 or 9:30, even though we're not going to fall asleep till 10:30, at least that's some more quiet time between the two of us where we can just talk, like goof around, just really just bullshit with one another and not be distracted by Dairy Girls on Netflix, which is an incredible show if you haven't watched it. It's about a bunch of Catholic schoolgirls in Ireland in the 1990s, played by actors that are our age. It's hysterical. Sorry for that tangent, but there's so many good shows that you can get caught up in, and the next thing you know, it's 10:30 at night, and I haven't said a word to Meg next to me, and it's frustrating. Like that's not the way a relationship's supposed to function.
Yeah. But I think. it's very, high level and very aware of, you're very self-aware of kind of your relationship, because I think a lot of people, fall into that trap of always having a screen or always having something distracting, and then, while you are having spending time together, you're not truly spending time together.
Yes. So if you're one of those people that has a TV in your bedroom and you're falling asleep to it, don't. Try to do something. If you can't do every night with your significant other at a dinner table, try like 1, 2 nights a week. Or if you know on the weekends you're definitely going to have time, go and have a date night, but don't bring your phones. Think about like all the people that really need to get a hold of you in an emergency situation that probably won't occur. And so you're not going to hear from them. And if you get back to them 30 or 45 minutes after you get back from going out to dinner, it's not the end of the world. I know we live in like this age of immediate reaction and responses, but one of my buddies that I was at Hood with and then at Carson, and he was up at 275, I wouldn't get responses from him on text messaging. And I loved it. It was like, oh my God, I want to be like this guy, because he is completely hanging out with his wife. He does not give a shit about the phone. He's just all about his relationship and he's not being distracted. It's like that's what I want to emulate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like, part of like modern society too, and then just from like a physiological standpoint too, like limiting the screen time before you go to bed too is also a good thing to help you get better night's sleep. Just from like the blue light standpoint and like distractions, and you want to wind your brain down and have a good night's sleep, stuff like that. So not just from a social psychosocial standpoint, but also a physiological standpoint, the screens are not necessarily a good thing and should not be part
Well,
of your wind down routine.
speaking about physiological and winding down in bed, I've seen two reports now that uh, male sperm count is down 50% in like Western industrialized countries. And I'm wondering if you've seen any reporting on that, or can comment on that. And I know that this is a huge left turn from what we've been talking about, but I had just seen another video before we started recording on it.
Yeah, actually, there's a lady on Joe Rogan. She was like a Harvard professor of biology or chemistry biology or something like that, where her PhD and her research is basically oriented around reproductive health. And basically, it's multifactorial, as far as to it's also decreasing like drop in testosterone too. Like the testosterone is lower than before. So there's several hypotheses that's related to why this happens. As far as like diet goes, we're talking about eating a lot more processed foods nowadays. Processed foods that are wrapped in plastic, so there's some sort of plastic leaching into the food,
Ugh.
that causes some like BPA is a very common known plastic agent. But a lot of plastics there are organic compounds, so they have like carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, similar to human organic compounds, which can cause effects in the body. BPA is a well-known plastic contaminant that mimics estrogen. It's very similar in structure to estrogen. So the thought is that BPA could bind to your estrogen receptors and fool your body into thinking that you have excess estrogen. That's just one of the multiple like plastic compounds that could have biological effects inside your body. So there's that aspect of food contamination from plastics. There's the aspect of processed foods, like we know about all these processed foods, like all the vegan foods nowadays are just hyper processed foods, which take like the whole foods, then process it, reduce kind of like the bioavailability of nutrients, reducing the vitamins, minerals, etc. So there's that aspect. There's the aspect of people just more sedentary nowadays, lack of physical activity. People sit all day on the couch or sit all day in the office. They don't spend time like expressing their fitness or even working out. No, people aren't like lifting weights as much. So you don't have that extremely anabolic response to lifting weights. So and a huge factor like multifactorial. You can talk about like kind of more esoteric causes like electromagnetic radiation from like cell phones and shit like that. Um, but ultimately, end of the day, it's multifactorial in that people are living a less active and less healthy lifestyle that's causing the general, public and American population that generally reduce the testosterone levels and reduce fertility and sperm count.
So you're telling me when I sit on the toilet and I'm watching YouTube, my phone is at the same time killing my reproductive capabilities? How close do you think that electromagnetic wave has to be to your nether regions?
This is like all like positive, like I'm not a huge like believer in electromagnetic radiation, but there is like, you know, energy that leaves your phone and goes into like the nether sphere around you. That was like a common thing that like guys or people were saying they had more instances of brain cancer from cell phones. I don't think they ever proved that epidemiologically speaking, but that makes sense. If your phone draws like information from around it through the like radio signals, so you imagine there's some kind of electromagnetic radiation that goes around.
I know a lot of soldiers and rangers that I served with had a lot of issues and issues, I guess is a good word, with trying to get pregnant with their spouses, and had to do IVF, which is incredibly expensive. The Army doesn't cover it, which I think is shocking. That is, when I look at how much we wasted, and we'll get on Afghanistan here in a minute, how much money we wasted in Afghanistan, but we can't set up, America's sons and daughters to get pregnant by a group that I would generally consider to be above average of our American counterparts. That's upsetting. I feel if we have all these capabilities, the Army at least should be helping with, of all these surgeries, helping get couples, pregnant.
Yeah, it is a shame that the military doesn't do it, but I think that especially in the special operations or just in the army or any military in general, we're exposed to a lot of weird industrial compounds that most normal civilians aren't exposed to. For example, in a shoot house or even just going to the range, every time you shoot, there's lead dust that comes out from your rounds. There's lead dust everywhere. So you can talk about lead poisoning or like lead overexposure, so increased level of lead in service members. Then you talk about like the all the industrial chemicals that service members, are exposed to, like, like cleaning weapons, like the CLP, that stuff is pretty sure that's carcinogenic. And then you with like I don't know if you remember like Bradley's, like the goop that they would like spread on like the 30 cal or 50 cal.
Oh, dude, this is all foreign to me. I was in my Bradley once. That is my mech experience, but I got it checked on the old tracker for branch.
Yeah, but it's just like especially like in the military, like you're exposed to probably a lot more probably not good for you substances and chemicals that the average civilian isn't exposed to. Like like imagine like as a private, like you're just told to like go clean like the company bay, and you're given like a tub of like this industrial strength like cleaner that like clearly says like don't touch your hands, don't touch your skin, and like people still do it because they don't know any
Oh
better, and
yeah.
they're like an 18-year-old private that they can't read instructions too. But stuff like that, and you're like given also like a task and not given the proper PPE to like do things like that. So there's also not it's also not like unheard of for military service members to get like weird cancers too. Which is other shout out to like 107 Foundation for kind of leading the charge on identifying these weird kind of cancers that kind of are more pervasive or more prevalent in military service members. And there's things like sarcomas or lymphoma, leukemia, like these weird like malignancies that are pretty solidly related to industrial exposures. Talk about like burn pits overseas, like you know if you're ever exposed to burn pit overseas, definitely get on the burn pit registry, um, sign up for that. But there's like all these industrial exposures that we as service members get exposed to that most people don't.
I think that's a great point. I remember on one mission. I think I've said this before, but our Tejas counterparts had started, slaughtering some of the, I think they were geese or some sort of a fowl on an objective and cooking them for us. And we found a whole bunch of IED making materials, and there were some powders in random rooms. But we figured that some of these powders were supposed to be seasoning, and they might have been. They just didn't taste like anything. But I remember we were putting it in the water to boil with some of the meat, and I'm just going, this doesn't taste like any. Are we sure that this is seasoning and we're not like ingesting something that we should, like, if someone's gonna come and zap me, my insides are gonna blow up. Um, so I'm still healthy, but if in like a couple years I knock off from some weird, never heard of cancer, you can go back to 2015 for that one.
Oh, and speaking of like deployments, like what the fuck? What are those things called? You know those like man-ped like IED
Rivets?
jammers? The what?
Oh, no, not rivets. Oh, oh,
You know
not
those
the Thor
man-ped?
systems.
Yeah, they were Thor systems.
Yeah, I think it was Thor. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like because I was the company FSO, I had to fucking carry that thing. And I just remember it just like sitting behind my ear and just this high pitch like
Zzz.
the
Yeah.
entire time. Also, like in the strikers, I would ride around and that thing would sit like right in front of me, and I can only imagine how much like electromagnetic radiation things blowing out. So like, you know, on deployments, the amount of like other exposures that most people don't get, it's kind of
What was it?
absurd.
The Wolfhound, the radio collect that, it's supposed to be able to, you're trying to listen into other radio signals that aren't encrypted. But I mean, that thing had antenna that, you look like a Christmas tree carrying it around. And I just remember being around all that going, no, no, no. Like, I don't want to wear my combat diaper. I sure as shit don't want to stand next to that thing. Like,
Yeah,
two things I'm fine with possibly losing. Like, my life 40 years from now, I'm fine with not standing next to that if it catches something. And two, if I step on something and I'm worried about my junk getting blown off, I'm sure there are 10 things that I should be more concerned with if the explosion or something is that bad.
but yeah, and that's like the point I was trying to make. Like, the military, we're probably asked to do, without fully understanding the future repercussion implications of doing something. We're probably asked to do way more than we probably should. And you should always like question if this is like a safe thing, and then you know, at the end of the day, you're told to do something, you have to do it, but at the same time, like protect yourself as much as you can because nobody else is
Yeah,
looking out for you.
well, speaking about the military and protecting yourself when no one else can, we pulled out of Afghanistan mighty sneakily. I mean, like
Yeah,
3 a.m. and just flip the switch for lights off. That's a way to go. That's a way to cut ties.
yeah. Our boy Brian was on the last flight out of Bath, reverse airfield seizure.
I've seen funny things that say 75th preparing for getting their mustard stain, reclaiming Bagram 30 days from now.
It's
Yeah,
funny, but it's probably true.
it's also probably terrifying. I know that the 3 districts I operated out of my first deployment are all now under the control of the Taliban, and some of the other districts that I went with the 75th are also back in the hands of the Taliban. But I don't think Afghanistan is in as quite dire a situation as probably Western media likes to portray.
I actually haven't seen any of the reporting in mainstream media. I'm not a 24-hour news guy or like mainstream news guy. So I get all my, information from like third-party media
Instagram.
reporting. Yeah, Instagram essentially. Shout out Atlas News, my boy Atlas News.
At the good places that I watch on the YouTubes are, I think it's called DW, Al Jazeera. I'll watch because, like, why not watch the people from the source? Um, there's a German one that's pretty good, but I feel like the first couple of days after we pulled out, the Taliban came with a very vengeful take back of some of these districts, and they took a third of the 400 districts back from Afghans. And then in the north, there were 1,000+ Afghan soldiers that were trying to flee into Tajikistan, and they keep showing Kabul and people visiting the passport office to get out of Dodge. But in the last couple of days, the Afghan military started pushing back, and they've still got planes, they still got artillery. These Kandaks have been trained, and I think we look at the Afghan soldiers quite negatively for those that have served and been over there, only because our experience with them has always been like holding their hand. But I think now that they feel some of this patriotism, that they know that there's no one, coming to help them, they're going to step up and realize the type of capabilities that they can employ on a battlefield, especially against a crew that is relying on, you know, PKMs, RPGs, and now has a couple of MRAPs here and there. But generally, the Afghan army is probably not going to have quite as strict of ROE as we did as Americans, fighting them.
Yeah, and I would say like for most of like the districts that Taliban has taken back, these are like, middle of nowhere districts with like a ANP or, small ANA like outpost of like 30 guys or something like that. Like I think still the overall population is still like pretty much still, Afghan controlled, but then as far as the land mass, sure, there's probably Taliban has probably more influence on like the outskirts and the smaller, more remote districts where there is not a bigger, Afghan presence.
No, and the the Taliban have definitely seized some weapons and munitions and NVG capabilities, vehicles like MRAPs and Humvees. They've got now in a small amount of an inventory. But in general, I think the Afghans are going to be a little bit more organized in their fight going against them. They've got their planes, they've still got aircraft. Katehas are going out, I think, nightly on raids. But it'll be interesting to see what it looks like 6 months from now
Hmm.
in the fighting season, and not just in the everyone freak out that country's collapsing kind of news cycle that we got a week ago.
Yeah, it's like, just by giving somebody like a, M4 doesn't make somebody a soldier, Same thing with like
No, and
the Taliban, like giving like a goat herder like a AK-47 doesn't exactly make them like a warfighter.
no, and watching all these videos where, again, I think it's DW News, Vice's put reporters in with local Taliban commanders in all these random districts that are trying to bring their flavor of Sharia law to that district, and giving access to women that uh, was unheard of 20 years ago, but is still way less than the Afghan government is providing, as a way to show that we are the good guys type propaganda. But I'm seeing all of these fighters that the Taliban has. The commander is typically around 40 years old, likely has done some fighting, but I'm guessing probably has hit out most of his time in a madrasa in Pakistan. The fighters all look like they're 16 to 22 to 23. They very much are posing for this mujahideen type photo op where they've got all of their religious memorabilia on them. They're holding their AKs the right way. They're very stoic, but these are the same guys that we were balling up in droves 5 years ago. That I'm sure the Katehas or the Afghan Kandaks are going to do the exact same when they start employing basic tactics against them, because you have an AK and a motorbike. I don't think that's going to really be that mass on a frontal attack on a fob the size of Bagram. Like, that's not going to get it done. So for all of the propaganda that they're throwing out there that probably younger generations are soaking in, from like a realistic standpoint, I don't think it's going to be that much of a threat. Now, I could eat my words here in 6 months and Afghanistan will be under complete Taliban control, but I generally have um, some comfort in knowing that there are some really good fighters and there are Afghans that love their country that are going to push these guys back.
Yeah, I'm always kind of curious to see, what our involvement's going to be because it's been very nebulous as far as what did like Biden say about Americans supporting like a small American element supporting or something like that, supporting Afghan operations. Like, what does that mean? Is that going to be like all soft again? Like, conventional forces pulling out Afghanistan, still leaving like a couple thousand like American like special operations overseas to like do target raids. Like, who knows what that's going to turn out to look like? But it'll be curious to see.
I think a great video, if individuals are wondering, even in 2011, what our tactics look like, and something that I never considered there. But the documentary is called Kill Capture, and it talks about how Afghans, both like pro Afghan government and anti, whether it was Al Qaeda, Haqqani, Taliban, none of them supported or liked the idea of doing raids at night. For some reason, they saw that as less honorable than just fighting in the day. That even though you were going after someone that was a bad or a named target, you still shouldn't go in the middle of the night and scare people that are innocent, or take them by surprise. Now that obviously changed in the subsequent 9 years that we were there. But it's an interesting take that I never considered. I always thought, oh, people were fine with night raids, like we do this all the time, but not seeing where it came from, or maybe what it used to be in the early 2000s to the height of the kill capture kind of soft raids, was a really cool 45-50 minute documentary if anyone out there has time.
Hmm, interesting. I also wonder, like, about all the contractors now that are overseas too. Like, what's gonna happen to all these contractors?
I do not care. I think contractors and the like military industrial complex prolong this war. Um, there was some report I read a couple years ago where something like the F-35 had a component made in every single one of the 50 states. Now I'm saying that very passionately, and I could be off, in my assertion there, but it just goes to show that the military industrial complex that Eisenhower was afraid of, it really has taken over, where everyone wants a piece of making something for the Abrams, making something for ships. We're constantly outspending every other nation on the planet for our military. But like, are we really that far ahead of everyone else? There are countries that have invested more with their radio tech, with China and with Russia. You see in Crimea what happens with those technologies. It's like, are we there yet? Because we watch these capability videos, and I don't feel too strongly that we're gonna walk right in, especially when we've had trouble with an insurgent force in Afghanistan for 2 decades and Iraq for a decade. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think about. And we're just spending all this money, and contractors making, you know, three, four, 10 times as much as a soldier that could do the exact same job. Why do we need contractors, 7 to 1 at Bagram over soldiers? That makes zero sense. Like, what is this war? It's not one, being run by soldiers.
Yeah, it's a political war. Like, at the end of the day, the political statement is we have less Americans, American soldiers, but still those soldiers replaced 2 to 1, 3 to 1 by contractors to do the same exact job.
Yeah, and we're paying so much more. Like, you could train an 18, 19-year-old to do the exact same kind of stuff on a mine roller, replacing the mine rollers, than paying some contractor who's going to wear some polo over there in Afghanistan, carry around a Glock, make you think that they're SF, and then you see they have, an L3 logo on their chest, or, whatever the other tech dudes were, with their camo hat, and you find out that they used to be in the military back in the 90s, and they're a Desert Storm veteran, like stuff nobody cares about, but they share anyway. But it's just frustrating to see that jobs that soldiers should be filling are going to contractors for way more money than the taxpayers should be paying.
So I think, next question that I would pose is where do you think the military is going to next? Someone actually asked us on Instagram a couple of days ago about, with the drawdown in Afghanistan, what's the next, hotspot? What do you think what's your take?
Probably, and I think you posted a picture of the African continent. I think with the rise of some of the extremism in some of the more destitute parts of that continent, especially how big that continent is, we'll find ourselves getting wrapped up there again. The only problem is what's going to trigger it, because just like the Middle East was pretty far from the US and it took an event like 9/11 to get us in there, I don't see us deploying full brigades or divisions to go fight a smaller extremist threat in Africa, lest they do something like attack US, home soil. And I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, that was that was my hot take, is that we'll have a little bit more counterinsurgency, probably like smaller deployments training deployments in like in Africa, training like the training Africans, and still having a soft presence targeting like Boko Haram, and Somalia, those guys. But I think we'll also do some more in the Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, for example,
Mm.
and then definitely more like some low visibility stuff in South America, as that South America is like rapidly destabilizing. It seems
I could
like.
see that. The thing I'd be interested to see is the role that the SFABs will play, because we brought the SFABs up to speed, 2 to 3 years ago, and without a war going on, I'm wondering what's going to happen to them, because I felt that the Afghan government was ill prepared to fight, only because every operation that I was on, you had that 50% mark where you had to bring Afghans on the missions. Or even on my first deployment, it was you just had to have an Afghan. That's all you needed was like, one A&P truck, and it was a joint coalition, but we never trained them. I would love if we went back to, the SF teams training the more advanced, indigenous force, um, fighting elements, and then you would have like SFABs training the large conventional side of the house. You have Rangers doing their raids, and then you might only need a small conventional element for security purposes, and then to serve as like uplift. I would love to see that as a mechanism that we would use for our next infill into whatever country that we're fighting, either host nation force or some rebels.
Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting model. And I think it's probably, ultimately it's going to be like whatever colonel or general officer wants to make their mark on the future of the military, whoever gets the most political say, which I've only like recently in the last couple of years started appreciating more and more the fact that a lot of the decisions made, like policy decisions, are made by like just senior level officers that are trying to make general or trying to get their second star, and it's like a very political and kind of not really what's best for the force or what's best for for soldiers, what's best for their careers.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody wants to have a deployment on their OER, especially if they're a field grade or higher. And you see that the generals don't differ much in their strategy. The same ones that were in Afghanistan in 2011 preaching coin are the ones that saying, "Oh, well, I always thought that coin could be improved here, and I think I was proved right." It's like, no, at the time you said nothing. And I'm not like naming any general here in particular, but there are enough generals out there where anyone's probably had some FaceTime with go, these individuals might be hot shit in their past lives, but right now they're just yes men, and save a couple units out there that all they care about is, okay, well, I'm going to get my second star. I hope I take over a major infantry division or a major division. If not, I'm going to go to a maneuver center. After the maneuver center, will I be, a lieutenant general up at the Pentagon, or will I have a more active role at a corps? And it's the gamesmanship. It's what I really disliked about trying to get your rating when you're a company level officer and being the number one platoon leader. I've always said that I don't care what my rating was, so long as my platoons performed and I had good relationships, and we were lethal. That's all I cared about. And whatever ranking I got afterwards was like a perk. But people that go in there fighting for it, it's clear that a lot of them end up being those senior level officers that you're going, who the fuck thought it was a good idea to put this guy in charge of an infantry brigade?
Yeah, it's like I've noticed it in the hospital too. It's very annoying in the hospital. Probably shouldn't air out this much like dirty laundry or like air out some of these like ideas, but basically the hospital at Madigan's been on like reduced capabilities and reduced inpatient beds because a lot of the nursing support has been tasked out to do COVID vaccinations in support of like the Biden initiative to get the whatever the 100 million, whatever the initiative is. But it's really a shame because the hospital is only limited to like 20 to 30 inpatient beds, and patient care is suffering because some O5 or O6 in the hospital decided they wanted to get that bullet on their OER saying that they help facilitate several like X number of COVID vaccinations in support of the presidential initiative, and because in doing so, like because somebody made that decision, patients and people are not getting the care that they deserve, and us residents aren't getting the quite frankly some of the training that we deserve because we only have like 3 patients on their list that we're taking care of. So ultimately, there's like all these second and third order effects because one like person wanted to hit that OER bullet, and it's just kind of a shame, and it's just pervasive, I think, in the military in general.
And you talk about OER bullets. I would challenge anyone out there that has had maybe 3 to 4 positions in the military that is thinking about transitioning. Look at your OER and COER bullets. And what Bobby just said, had so many people inoculated. That's not going to be a bullet you're putting on a real resume. So when you put this kind of stuff on your OER and COER and you translate that to a resume, people do not care about these quantifiable measurements that we use in the military to show competency. They're going to look at, did you have an action? Did you have the correct conduct, and what was the result? And you have to write it in a way that shows a civilian exactly what you did. And these kind of had 120 out of 128 soldiers qualify expert on their weapons system. Cool. That nobody in the civilian world that's hiring for a consultant is going to look at that and go, I'm going to trust this guy to invest, this $3 million project in. So I would take a look, if I were you listening and you were thinking about getting out, or even if you weren't, look at what a real resume says, and then look at your NCOER, OERs and go, wow, can I spot the huge discrepancy here on how people write on the outside world and what we value here in the military?
Yeah, it's completely different, and it's just like at the end of the day, if you're competing for that top rated position in your unit, it's probably not um, you're probably not doing the right thing all the time. That makes
No,
sense.
but you're taking other people's product and saying it's your own. Um, you're throwing your peers underneath the bus. It's a small world. The military is small. You're going to run against these, or run against. You're going to run into these people later again, and that negative inference that someone might draw when they see your name will stick with you. So, like, treat your peers accordingly, but at the same time, don't. If chasing that number one bullet is turning you into a dick, like, that's on you.
Yeah, always be a good dude, be cool,
Yeah.
just be cool.
Um, Speaking about Americans and patriotism and such, what do you think about Sha'Carri Richardson being suspended from the
Oh,
U.S.
good
Olympic team?
take.
Our
Oh,
number one female 100-meter sprinter. Like, my mind's blown for smoking weed.
here's the thing. I have zero sympathy because the rules are, that you're going to go compete in the U.S. trials. You literally made a decision to smoke weed before going to this trial where you knew you were getting drug tested. Like, I have honestly zero sympathy for it. And that might be like an unpopular take on it because, oh, weed's like, it's cool. It's like, it's a plant, doesn't really, it's not performance enhancing. But then there's the rules. Like, if you swapped out weed for testosterone, you know, it's not obviously like, not the exact comparison, but it's breaking the rules. And at the end of the day, the rules that you're operating in, and then when you choose deliberately to make it, to break that rule, you shouldn't be surprised that you're losing your chance because that's literally, that's a decision that you made.
I definitely see that. You've got to take personal responsibility and ownership. And I know that she has. She came out and she made a statement that I knew what I was doing when I did it, and what the risks were. It's one of those, she gambled and she lost. But as someone that wants to see America clean up in Tokyo here in 2 weeks, and I can't remember if it's the U.S. Olympic Committee or the Olympics in general that banned the use of that drug. But if I was an American, I'd be pissed. There's a lot of really qualified sprinters out there on the female side, but I don't want our number one sitting on the sideline. I get that it's weed, and we can talk about the testosterone thing because that's impacted other female athletes. But really, like, for the drug, it has to satisfy like 3 things. It has to be like a performance, give you someone a competitive advantage. It has to be, I think a drug is another one, and there's like there's a third factor, a third prong of that test. I don't know how weed satisfies 2 out of the 3, but they said that weed satisfied 2 out of the 3. It's like, watch out for the skateboarding team. Um, Swim team, hello, like they do that all the time. I think Michael Phelps said that all 4 of them were high when they won their gold medal match or gold medal swim against France in that huge relay, like, 9 years ago. I just think weed is one of those ones that's silly, especially if you want to see medals, because so many athletes are doing it. The NBA no longer cares about testing. The NFL doesn't. I get that they're the rules, and I'm all about the rules and being followed. But it's just frustrating as an American knowing that your number one runner is no longer competing at the Olympics. They could have put her in on the 4x1 and still chose not to. Like, it just seems from like a public kind of looking in magic 8 ball, like something is broken here.
I mean, I see that, but at the same time though, like that is the rules, and why aren't we like blaming her instead of blaming the system for like for breaking the rules?
Well,
We
sure,
hold like
because
athletes
her
accountable for like testing positive for testosterone or for steroids. We hold those athletes accountable and uphold those punishments. But then what?
Well, her reason why was her biological mother had died the week prior. And I get that, like, you can write that off as that as an excuse. Like, she still knew the repercussions of smoking weed. But it just goes back to weed in general. We've had the conversation on a number of podcasts. Well, then why isn't alcohol on that list? Why isn't cigarette smoking on that list? Weed is one of those ones that, 18 states, I think, thus far have come along and said, okay, it's not as bad as everyone thought. It's just frustrating because I want to see the number one runner out there. But to that point about testosterone, there are a number of women that are banned from these Olympics because of having higher testosterone. And where this is frustrating for me is, okay, Sha'Carri Richardson gets busted for smoking pot. Testosterone levels fine. These other women have naturally higher testosterone levels, but then they're banned. But the trans lifter from New Zealand, who is a born male, transition female, is still able to compete. Like, I don't know where the testosterone benefit comes in. You had, I don't know when, I think it's Lauren Hubbard transitioned, but she had decades of functioning as a higher male before she started taking the testosterone blockers to have, whatever the required level is. But then naturally born women can't compete because they naturally have a higher testosterone level. Like, are we going to an Olympics where it's not going to matter what gender it is, and it's just going to be on your T levels, and that's going to differentiate between male competitors and female, or what?
I think that's kind of the trend is going that way in terms of trying to put an objective measure into um, qualifying, someone to compete at a certain level. The interesting part for like the biological females that have higher testosterone levels, part of that is like the genetic lottery. Like some athletes, more or less have won genetic lottery for having higher preponderance of fast twitch muscles, having like a genetic lottery for like having like more biomechanically advantageous joints and shit like that. So at a certain point, like it is literally just when you're lucky enough and had the right amalgamation of genes that created like a super athlete, which is part of being part of competing. Some people are just naturally gifted and have better genes to become athletes, and then when we try to like equalize the playing field for whatever for like one factor out of the multiplicity of factors, then probably like does a disservice to the athletes that we're just lucky enough to be born that way.
I'm completely fine if we want to open up the Olympic Games to trans athletes. I honestly don't care. I just want to see sport. Cool. And I think that there are enough women out there where if people are saying, oh, we're going to have trans women that are just going to take every single position, we'll wait and see how Lauren Hubbard does, because I still think she's only ranked 7th in the world going into the game. So I don't think she's going to medal. It's always these like random complaints about, oh, someone took the podium spot in Connecticut for girls track. Who cares about girls track in Connecticut type argument? Like, they're not taking the number one spot to go to FSU. But I just feel badly when women that have done nothing except train their entire lives to get to this moment because of a natural occurring phenomena in their body with their testosterone levels are prevented from competing against, the whole reason that we have, a Title IX, was a Title 9 for women's sports. Like, that seems counterintuitive to then prevent them because they have higher testosterone. Like you mentioned, all the other factors that women could have that make them faster. I mean, like Katie Ledecky, no one's made any accusations against her, but as a 15-year-old, she was crushing everyone in all these endurance swims, and she is still crushing the world. Like, I'm sure there's something biological about her body that makes her just an incredible swimmer. Like, whatever hard work she's done, whether it's her shoulder muscles, she has a weird kick when she swims. It's not consistent. Her pull is so powerful. That's much better than probably 99.99999% of women swimmers, because there's something about her that just swimming in her click. So, but if we had prevented her, because if the Olympics were to go, oh, your shoulders can't be more than 2 inches wider than your hips, like, it just seems arbitrary,
No, I
because in
agree.
swimming that makes a huge difference. So I want the Olympic Committee to get its shit together, because I want to watch the Olympics. I want to enjoy the Olympics. But again, going back to Sha'Carri Richardson, I want to see the best performing. It's the reason why I don't have a problem with Lance Armstrong taking all of these performance enhancers against the Tour de France when everyone else in the Tour de France was juicing on something. Like, if we're just honest with ourselves, I'm sure there are NFL players that are on something that 10 years from now will be what we talk about in the gym as the normal stuff, whether it's you do the Endurable, the Rad 140, the Cardarine, the Andrine, like those kind of SARMs. Like, those were quiet, hush discussions 10 years ago. Now they're mainstream. Like, what are we going to find out 10 years from now was mainstream? Is my question. And just let them do whatever they want. I just want to see fast, big people run.
I think that's a good like point they make up they bring up about just letting it become a free for all because there's always it's like the arms race of performance enhancing drugs and drug testing is that the drug makers and the drug designers are always one step ahead of the detectors and the tests. Like in the Tour de France back in that in like 2010 when Lance won all those titles, all those samples were were clean samples because we just hadn't invented the technology or the science to detect these drugs. But then fast forward like 5 or 6 years, they went back and retested them and found them. So it's like, at some point you just have to just be realistic about it. And I get we talk about having fair sport and everything like that, but maybe at the highest levels, we should just, I think culturally should realize that even at the highest levels, people are still probably taking something, or there are some advantages that people are taking that not everyone has. And that, if we just say, let's just have like the super juice Olympics and just let it open up to everybody, then maybe we'll see what happens. And, you know, but then you have to consider the social implications of saying that at the highest level of sport that you can do whatever you want, but then you have these kids, and that's the classic argument against performance like PEDs in sport is that you have kids or like high schoolers that are forced to take PEDs to try and keep up with their peers to make the next level, and that's
Well, yeah.
really
Well, there was the family in Texas that their son was on steroids, and he killed himself, and they blamed steroids, and it was discussed on either the House or the Senate floor that steroids had an adverse impact on your mental health, and it caused this to happen. And the counter is, well, no, it didn't. Like, there were other issues. This individual, did they have a bad game before they did it? Did they realize that all these years of work and taking these drugs weren't going to get them to play pro? I think the bigger issue is we don't have honest discussions with our youth to tell them early enough in their life, you're not going to be pro. You don't have what it takes, because again, we're in this kind of trophy generation where everyone can be pro. We spend so much money on the new shoes, the sports costs. Everyone plays travel now when rec was probably the best that they should have ever done. And so to be told that you aren't good enough is no longer something that parents can tell their children. They can't tell them no. And if drugs are what makes, the pro athletes pro, then every other kid is going to want to do it. Like, I see that argument, but I also think it's crap, that I think if we got back to parenting effectively and said, like, no, John, you don't have what it takes to play pro. Just be happy with playing minor league ball. I think sports serves two purposes. One, to get people in shape, like young children to grow up doing something physical so they have a muscular structure on their body that can take them 20, 30 years before they start getting super obese. And the other one is just basic competition. But I think too many people think that they're the next Messi or Ronaldo of their sport.
I see both sides of it, and you know, personally, I would not mind seeing like the Super Juice Olympics to see what records can be broken and see like this is the maximum of human potential, reaching the ultimate of human potential. Um, but you have to consider like the second, third order effects of that as well, and then this probably there should be like a discussion at the societal and cultural level too regarding performance enhancing drugs, because it's only in America that we've culturally decided that performance enhancing drugs are like not good for you and probably not good. But if you like look at like probably like Russia and China and North Korea and like all these other like governments and cultures where it's like it's fine, um, and it's like kind of just partly culture that it's accepted, then is it really worse off for those people or those kids to start early? Like you don't, who knows? I wonder if anyone's ever like looked at that information or that data and crunched those numbers, but you have to like wonder like why we've culturally decided that it's
Well, it's
bad.
because, I mean, President Biden, when he was talking about Mark McGuire, when he was in the Senate, was saying, I missed out on playing D1, or when I was, playing, did someone take a spot that I could have played? And I always thought that because I wasn't good enough, and I'm finding out that the person I was competing against was on drugs. Like, it's like, well, again, who cares? Whether that person was on drugs or not, I think people have the misconception that taking drugs automatically makes you 10 times better. We've talked about the effects of steroid use and SARMs use. You still have to put in a ton of work. It doesn't transform you into a superhuman. You're going to recover quicker, but you have to put in 10 times as much work to start really seeing those improvements. It's not like these people take one pill and they're walking around like Neo from the Matrix.
Yeah, but that's like the culturally and societal level that that's the conception or the understanding of performance enhancing drugs, that there's like this magical pill, which also like probably speaks a lot about our society too, because we are like always looking for that one pill to like help you lose weight without doing the work to lose weight.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just
I just
American
wish
society.
our military, for instance, I think you shared an article a month ago, or maybe even 2 months ago, since we've had all of our back-to-back-to-back podcasts. But I think it was the Chinese government was starting to look at research into improving the genome of their soldiers, or taking steroids to make them bigger, stronger, faster. If we're going to spend billions of dollars on our government soldiers, why aren't we making our government soldiers just superhuman? I mean, like, foreign forces should be scared of us because of our military tech. They should fear us because we all look like Arnold Schwarzenegger running around on Predator. Like, that's the kind of set that I want to see. I want to see every single soldier doing, Dylan, you son of a bitch. Like, that should be how we greet people in the military and gyms. We're just jacked, like, do not mess with us. This isn't Arnold Schwarzenegger Total Recall where he slimmed down. This is Predator. This is Commando. I want people fearing us because of our physical mass.
Yeah, I remember like walking around the cops in 375, and then compare and contrast like the average Joe in second ID, and compare and contrast that with like a Ranger. There's a physical, like there's an once you can see a physical, like a visible difference in both the physique and just how they carry themselves too. I think it's kind of interesting too, like in soft in general too. You can tell somebody who's like kind of soft, they just look different.
Right. And it's not just because you have muscle heads in the conventional army, the guys that are pulling over 500, 600 pounds off the ground, and, they're putting up 4 plates on bench. But those guys can't run 18 minutes on the 2 miles. It's like you see people that are slightly leaner in regiment, but they're going to run a 35-minute 5 mile. There's that, again, that military functional fit looking athlete coming out of soft units that you don't get on the conventional side of the house. And again, not any part due to performance enhancing drugs, but I'm just thinking, imagine those dudes on performance enhancing drugs. Now take that to the rest of the army. And this isn't, we're not an anabolic A here, but you know what I'm saying? Like that, the trickle down effect, the trickle down economics of this would be, we would be a massively fit force.
Yeah, I've always kind of advocated for that fact that in soft especially, like you already have all these resources dedicated to performing, yeah, enhancing performance, both like physically, recovery. You have doctors, you actually have a battalion surgeon that's actually a doctor. Um, I don't think it would be too far out of like too far reaching to have like a prescribed testosterone or performance enhancing regimen that's supervised by a physician. Because in the civilian side, you just go to a TRT clinic and you
Yeah.
just pay cash for it. Same thing. But in the military, it's frowned upon and it's not supported to do performance enhancing drugs. Whereas, you could argue that it's much safer, better for longevity if you have a doctor or somebody that actually is trained in prescribing it, actually supervising it, rather than you have some guys that buying some steroids from Mexico online and doing it themselves without
Yeah.
without proper like supervision or
Yeah, it comes in
medical.
a brown duffel bag from the Ukraine, and you're seeing it in the cough. I would make this point on the testosterone use in the military. We have to take a parachute to jump from an airplane. Arnold Schwarzenegger from a I don't know C-37 737 taking off the ground on that speed was able to jump out of the wheelbase into a marsh sans parachute, got up, and then went and kicked the crap out of the person that abducted his daughter. If that doesn't tell you the power of muscle, I don't know what will. Rambo, I mean, sure, Rambo 1, he was good. Rambo 2, that dude got slammed against a plane and missed his DZ by clicks. He was getting just absolutely throttled, cut his cord, landed on his reserve, and then still hiked it to free those Vietnam vets. If that doesn't tell you the power of muscle, I don't know what will.
But I think at the end of the day, the take is that America as a society, we've created this cultural norm where performance enhancing drugs are like a bad thing. Where if you look at other countries' cultures, it's more accepted and looked at as like a if you're not doing it, you're not trying to. But just in our culture, that we've just assigned this arbitrary negative connotation to performance enhancing drugs, whereas other countries are just more acceptable. And we have to wonder the implications of such a implications of that cultural norm when you like you talked about, like looking at China, who is known is looking at doing gene editing and gene enhancement for their future soldiers to make them stronger, faster, and more lethal. Whereas in America, we're talking about a 20% obesity rate in the armed forces. So you know probably losing somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I mean, and in Warhammer, there's a gene seed that they take for Ultramarines that transform them into Space Marines, or excuse me, that creates Space Marines. Ultramarines being one of the sects, and they have two hearts in their bodies. They stand at over 8 feet tall, and they live for an eternity. So I think we really have there's no limit to this ceiling that we can go after. And then if you get warped by the forces of chaos, your powers only increase. I mean, just look at what happened to Horus. Check it out. What's up? Warhammer nerd.
All right, we're gonna wrap it with that. I guess this Rick and Morty we could talk about, but I don't know if people are even listening at this point after our long ramblings about.
Yeah, you can tune out if you want to hear what we think about Rick and Morty, which is the real hard hitting news of the podcast. We'll go into it.
We'll finish out Rick and Morty. We'll finish out some Rick and Morty talk. Dude, I'm really digging this new
I
season.
it's so much. Last season was pretty fucking boring. This
Yeah,
season I'm enjoying significantly. I thought the last episode with Summer and Rick going off
yeah.
to the three planets that were essentially going to explode was really really funny. And then I thought the rip off Captain Planet was awesome.
Planetina,
It was
that
just
was great.
great 90s throwback there.
Yeah, this like these last couple episodes have been really good. The second one I want to say wasn't nearly as good, I thought.
Which one was
Um,
that?
which one was it? The one where they're like they are like killing the decoys and they're all the decoys.
Oh,
I was like, this is
I
a little too
every
meta.
single
I didn't get it really.
no, and was it Rick C-135 is the main one? I kept thinking you were gonna catch up to the main Rick,
Yeah,
and his family, and then every single time you got invested in one of them, going, oh, this must be them. It's like no, like they're dead.
yeah,
Next.
yeah. I didn't really get that episode. Wasn't a huge fan of that. The first one was pretty funny. With the like the time travel and then like eventually he
Oh,
comes with the goats and then he comes back in the future and then he like loses Jessica, which is his thing. And this last one playing
yeah,
Tina I
and
thought was hilarious.
Mr. Was it Mr. Nimbus?
Yeah.
Oh, god damn it, he controls the cops. Oh, Jerry, I don't know. Oh, he gave you the nod. Hi, welcome. That was a really great. What is everyone's thing with these techno birds? Like, oh god, I thought we were done with this.
Oh yeah. Pretty good
It
season. Digging it so far.
it's been good. Loki's also been really good. I know we're going to talk about. I've had a lot of fun watching the Loki and the variant stuff.
I
If
haven't
you if
watched any of it.
Yeah, I thought though this season of Rick and Morty was better. I mean, last season the dragon episode
Oh yeah.
was whatever. I just thought a lot of them were kind of boring. And like were the jokes were kind of tired. Like it kept doing the same kind of Rick and Morty type script. And this seems like it's just Ricks are gonna die, Mortys are gonna die, and I feel like we've seen that over and over again. Um, Especially going through these last couple episodes.
Yeah. But I do enjoy seeing some of the character development in Morty too, and then he's becoming like more and more self-sufficient and more like self confident and challenging Rick more and telling Rick to, like fuck off. He's not going to do that. And then Rick has to like find a replacement for Morty, like with Sumner.
Summer's been great. I mean, foul mouth though. That's something that I've gotten. Summer's character, I felt like season one was kind of just there as the annoying sister, like in Angelica
Hmm.
from the Rugrats.
Yeah.
Now she's like a defined character, and I really don't mind that Beth and Jerry have taken a back seat in the storyline because last season they had a pretty between their whole like moving to divorce
Yeah.
character arc. I was getting tired of them stepping in and their shitty parenting, but now it's like they're just sex positive and they have a couple of jokes here and there, and that's the extent that we see him on the episode.
Yeah. I've always hated like the Jerry like narratives. It's like kind of dumb. I always hated
I
the
thought
Jerry.
the Wooden Jerry in the post credit scene was really funny. Like,
Ugh,
why won't I die?
I'm not a big Jerry fan. Just his character kind of sucks in my. But whatever.
Well, his character is a lot like Cyril because I know they're both voiced by the same actor.
Who?
Oh, was it Bill Parnell? He
Cyril.
was yeah, Cyril from Archer.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's same kind of like uh, a not very masculine male character that always gets
Yeah,
shit
yeah.
on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
But good
I'm
season.
looking. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next episode. I like how they're doing the cold opening releases on YouTube and Adult Swim, where you can watch the first 2 to 3 minutes
Oh, really?
of the next episode, and they all look great. Like I watched what that was part of my 35-minute YouTube series today.
Mm,
It's like 2.5 minutes, and this one's going to be like a Morty and Rick one, which is fun.
all right. I guess we should call it that point. Call it now. We'll talk
Yeah,
about tomorrow.
if you're still listening, like you're a trooper.
All right. Any other announcements? Apply for the scholarship.
Apply for that. Yeah, it's the only one I got.
Check out 10,000. They've been great supporting us. So check out the shorts. Tactical short is a very nice short. I will say that myself. Just really check it out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Enjoy the summer. Get after your fitness.
Yeah, and we're not advocating taking SARMs or steroids if you're still in the military. We're only talking about the positives and the negatives of such use. We do not advocate for any illegal substance abuse or use.
Very true. And that is
Hashtag
a
disclaimer.
yeah, not medical advice. Anything in this show is not medical advice. All right. Catch you guys next time.
Peace.
Later.